Hello, everyone, and welcome to Metro TV. I'm your host, Andy Hoig, publisher, CEO of Metro Magazine. We have a great show for you today. We'll be talking to Brooke Hudson with Omaha Fashion Week and Donna Dostal with the Pottawattamie County Community Foundation. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Well, I am here with, first of all, my good friend, Donna Dostal, but Donna is also the president and CEO of the Pottawattamie County Community Foundation. Donna, thank you for joining me.
Oh, Andy, it's so great to see you. Thank you so much for having me on today. And it is so good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, well, there's so many things we can talk about. So let's just dive in. We're first going to talk about the 2021 Community Impact Grants, because that has a date of like March 31st, right?
That's right. That's right. So this is a great and timely conversation. So at the Pottawattamie County Community Foundation, we really focus on granting and amplifying individual and community philanthropy into Southwest Iowa. And we do that in one way through our impact grants. Last year in 2020, we granted out to 36 different organizations a little over $54,000, and the demand though was tremendous. We had over $90,000 worth of requests from 60 organizations. So it is a bit of a competitive opportunity, but it really does focus on Pottawattamie County and the things that communities are doing to really help make their communities strong, whether it's Freedom Rocks that you can see throughout the towns in Southwest Iowa, or all, even Heartland Family Service, the work that they're doing in their Iowa Family Works program. We grant all the way from soup to nuts, and so anywhere from $500 to $5,000 for organizations really doing the work that really creates community. And so the date for that, the deadline for applications is March 31st, just like you said.
Yep, it's coming up soon.
Yes.
All right, so let's move into the Women's Fund of Southwest Iowa.
Oh, such a great opportunity. So yeah, and Andy, you and I have talked a couple times about the Women's Fund. So when I started at the Community Foundation in 2018, we really started the work of identifying the most pressing needs that are facing women and their families in Southwest Iowa. And we identified 4 key focus areas. Access to affordable quality childcare, aging in place for our moms in Southwest Iowa, women's health, safety, and well-being, and then finally, education for women of all ages. And so over time, we've raised money towards that fund, and then also have developed a wonderful measurement tool for nonprofits that we have been granting to measure their impact in the community. And last year, 2020, in the very throes of COVID, we opened up our very first granting cycle and granted to 8 organizations over the course of the year for a total of $69,900. And so last year was our first granting year, and we're getting ready and ramping up for a new granting cycle for the Women's Fund in Southwest Iowa. So some of the ones that we just granted to at the end of 2020 was CHI Health, Mercy Hospital. They are focusing on telehealth or services for survivors of domestic violence. We're also granting to All Care Health Systems. They created a passport program to really enhance women's health and help women, especially those that are at or below the poverty level, really understand the proactive nature of healthcare for women. So we're excited to be partnering with them, and we'll be announcing our next granting cycle. It starts in May, and we're actually going to offer a grant workshop in advance of that in late April. So nonprofit partners can be looking for that.
Okay. Oh my gosh, so important, and that's amazing. All right, we're going to go next to the inaugural Impact for Women Summit slated for October 28th. I know that was going to happen in April, and you needed to change it.
But yes, we had to move it. Yeah, and so we actually have rescheduled it. This is our final time. It is happening October 28th. We had to reschedule it 3 times because of the issues with COVID.
Yeah.
And so we are so honored to say that one of our very dear and heartfelt friends is going to be emceeing the event. Andy Hoy will be emceeing the event. It's actually a half-day event. We're focusing on the 4 key areas of the Women's Fund, but bringing in subject matter experts to talk about what those 4 key areas look like right now in Southwest Iowa and our region. So Debbie Durham, she is the director of Iowa Economic Development. She's going to be starting the day off talking about women in the workforce. Then we pivot. The next person will be Lakeland Hogan from Home Instead Senior Care. She'll be talking about aging in place in Iowa and rural communities. The third person presenting during the morning hours will be Dawn Oliver Wyan. She is the president and CEO of the Iowa Women's Foundation, and she's going to be talking about the state of health of affordable quality childcare in the state of Iowa. And then finally, our keynote speaker is amazing, Elizabeth Smart.
Yeah.
She's a human trafficking survivor. And so that is really going to cap the day off in an amazing way. She's an advocate for women, especially against violence against women and human trafficking.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited for this event. And I believe, yes, this will be the final, this will happen.
Oh, it's happening. It is happening. And it will be a sort of a hybrid event. Yeah. So we'll have folks in person at the Ameristar Conference Center over here in Council Bluffs. And then also it will be broadcast virtually.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Where you can
forgive me.
Reach so many more people. So
yes.
That's exciting.
Very exciting.
Let's go into partnership with Share Omaha. We know they have Do Good Week coming up here soon. And yes. You guys, so take it away.
So for us on the Iowa side, we partner very, very closely with Share Omaha already. We partnered with them for Giving Tuesday, and it's particularly on the Iowa side. And we offered an additional match to endowments on our side and raised $3.5 million in like a split second. It was amazing. And so this year we are partnering with them also on Do Good Week in April, which I believe starts on, it wraps up the last day of Do Good Week is, I believe, April 27th.
It's April 19th to the 24th.
24th. So the Do Good Celebration Week, Celebration Saturday, we are helping to sponsor that, and we're providing $12,000 in prizes for Southwest Iowa nonprofits, in addition to the amazing sponsorship of F&B Omaha and Omaha Steaks. So on the Iowa side, we are coming forward and offering additional prize dollars. So excited to be partnering with Marjorie Moss and her entire team.
Oh my gosh, you guys are just, that collaboration is amazing. All right, so we have like 2 minutes left, and we're getting through all this. Southwest Iowa COVID-19 Response Fund. Let's talk about that.
So in partnership with the Iowa West Foundation, who absolutely is like an icon of philanthropy in Southwest Iowa and in our entire Omaha metro area, we partnered with them early on at the onset of COVID-19 to make sure that there was a streamlined process for nonprofits to apply for much needed funding, but also a vehicle for individuals and organizations to make sure that their money was getting to the area of greatest need. And so ever since we started the fund last year in March, we raised almost $3 million and have granted out about 1.2 million. And Iowa West is, put in almost 1.5 of their own money. We raised 700,000. And so it just, and then also had some available money if we needed to go and tap into that. But to date, just some of the amazing opportunities that have come through because of philanthropy in our region have just been phenomenal. And, between Iowa West and us being able to grant that kind of money to make sure that our nonprofits are able to survive and get the much needed assistance directly to people, whether it's food, rental assistance, help with legal fees through Iowa Legal Aid, all of those organizations that are doing the work with individuals and families to make sure that they had the much needed support during this very, very difficult time in our communities. So we are definitely Iowa strong, and with the partnership of Iowa West, we've really been able to touch the lives of so many people.
Yeah. Well, we're about done with our time limit, and I know we talked, but we got so much information in there, Donna. So much going on in Pottawattamie County, Southwest Iowa. Just people can find more out on your website, and I know the website's at the bottom of the screen.
Yes.
And I look forward to talking with you like in a couple months, and we'll keep the conversation going about everything, everything you're doing and how it impacts both the Iowa side and also Nebraska side. I mean,
absolutely, because we are a region, and the being able to be a supported and strong region in Southeast Nebraska, Southwest Iowa, that's what we're here to do, is to make sure that our region is strong and our community is healthy. So we're excited to be able to come and talk with you today, Andy. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Donna. And folks, we'll be right back. Well, I am so excited to be here with Brooke Hudson. Brooke is, she's not just a friend, but doing amazing things in the community. So Brooke, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Andy. It's great to be back.
I know. And I think we've talked somewhere within the last year, we had an interview, but now we're literally 1 year into COVID, and you are the producer for Omaha Fashion Week, and a lot of things had to change or pivot since things started literally a year ago in March.
Yeah.
So let's just talk a little bit about, you've got two events coming up, one at the end of March, like within the next week, and also the fall event. So how have things changed over the year?
It has changed dramatically, and we've learned a lot of new things. Our August 2020 season was a hybrid event, so we had a digital component to it and a live event component, and we did most of the planning and the meetings for that season through Zoom. So even our model calls were all done digitally. So we changed a lot of our processes just to make it more safe. And then when we actually got into the August season last year, even the way the backstage is configured and the way we did social distancing and keeping people in cohorts as they move through the backstage was all super challenging. But we made it, we got through it, and there were no cases or community spread that came out of the event, which we're very thankful for. But it was a lot more work. It added a layer of complexity we've never dealt with before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I remember talking to you, and we did an interview, before the fall event. But at this time last year, you had actually had your spring event, right?
Thank God, yes, we did.
Like maybe 3 weeks.
Literally like 2 or 3 weeks prior.
Yeah. So you had your spring event. Well, let's talk about the spring event.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So we have our next season coming up next week, which is great. And when we got through the August season, we decided to push back our spring season. Normally it would be at the end of February, so we pushed it to the end of March, thinking, surely by then there will be vaccines and things will be better. But as we got into October and November of last year, we started to realize this is risky. I don't know if things are going to be where we'd like them to be to do the event safely. So we got our designers together, and we had originally been thinking, let's just do an all digital season and we'll do digital runway shows. Got the designers together, and they all pretty much, I'd say about 90% of them felt a digital show wouldn't do for them what a live production would do.
Right.
And their advice to us at that time was, why don't you just not do runway shows in the spring and then come back strong in August? So we took their advice because the designers are the heart and soul of everything we do,
Absolutely.
right? And decided at that time that, yeah, okay, we're going to just go ahead and not do runway shows in the spring and focus on August for the runway shows. So fingers crossed, the vaccinations beat out the variants because it's like a race against time between those two. But, as of where things stand now, we're quite hopeful that we'll be able to do in-person shows in August. But for this season, rather than the runway shows, we're going to be focusing on what we've always focused on in the spring season, which is community and education. We call our spring season Fashion for Good.
Because let me just, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. So Omaha Fashion Week, for how many years was it just like the fall show? It was always, it was this
straight runway shows.
Oh my God. It was amazing. And then at some point, what year did you add a spring show?
We added a spring show. I think it might have been 2009 or 2010. I believe they did a very small show during the spring in 2010. And then in 2011, I actually took over as the producer.
Right.
And started expanding that. So that spring 2011 season was my first one. I had no idea what I was doing. And
the thing about the spring show, to me, it did, as we're going to start talking about in a minute, it added the elements of, you had a cancer survivor show, and then there was an educational piece. So there were all these little like niche pieces to each night that brought so much more out and educated the community about a lot of different things. So I just wanted to say that real quick. But I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. So the Cancer Survivor Show was really the first step that we took. And I think that was in spring of 2012 that we did that show. And that was really the first step towards building up this idea of fashion for good. And at the time we didn't even, that phrase hadn't been coined. And then we added in our high school student night, which we would have about 1,000 high school kids would go to that. And that was always the opening show of our spring season. And then we most recently added the UNL student showcase. So all their juniors and seniors get to show their big projects. And that's just one of the most visually interesting shows that we do, because the creativity there is just infinite, and they're working on these projects. So they're not being driven by commercial potential. They're literally being driven by art and inspiration, and it's a great one to see.
And it's kind of the first kind of anything in our community, being able to push that information and show these young designers and have them be able to showcase their work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It was a groundbreaking idea that my husband Nick came up with, back in 2008, which was, rather than charging designers to be in the show, we'll charge for tickets and hopefully get some sponsors. And that way it democratizes the whole industry here for our fashion designers, because most of them are starting out. They don't have the funds to produce their own show or to get into a big show. So we make everything free for our designers and even take them through a 6-month training process leading up to each season. So they're well prepared for the runway, they know what to expect, and they have a good experience. And then hopefully afterwards sell some clothes and make some money. That's ultimately what we want them to do. The spring season is just awesome because it is all about fashion for good and education. So we maintain the spirit of that season for our next week's activities. But rather than doing that through runway shows, we're actually looking beyond the runway. So we're calling this upcoming week Omaha Fashion Week Beyond the Runway. So we're looking at what happens kind of behind the scenes. So we've got next Monday, if you follow us on Instagram, you'll see high school students taking over our Instagram feed and showing what they've been doing in the classroom. Some of them are in class, some of them are working virtually on their stuff. So that'll be interesting to see. And then Tuesday night, we will still have our traditional student night, but rather than having a runway show, we'll have a discussion panel of local experts who represent different aspects of the fashion industry. And then the following night on Wednesday, we have James Scully, who is a casting director who's worked in the industry for decades, but he has actually been recognized by Vogue as the industry's whistleblower. So
what does that mean? What does that mean?
so it means he's the one out there making waves and making things that aren't right change. So things like, for many years, I think starting in like the early 2000s, we were seeing models like age 14 to 16, and they were being mistreated. Working long hours or working in unsafe conditions, being discarded by the industry. And so he spoke out and actually called brands and people out by name for what they were doing. And that got the attention of LMBH and Kering. And he brought those two big fashion conglomerates together to come up with the Kering LMBH model charter. And so this charter has now been adopted by the industry internationally as a way of protecting models, and out of that came age limits. So you can't send a kid to New York under the age of 18 to walk in a show because of that movement that he started. He's also called out casting directors who only want to cast white models. He's been a big proponent of seeing more diversity in the industry, also a bigger embrace of the industry for curvy models.
Right.
So he's called that out as well. So he's just such a fascinating character. And if you're a parent with a kid who's interested in fashion, or you are a young person interested, that is going to be a fascinating talk, because it's going to be focused on ethics in the industry and kind of what he went through to speak truth to power.
And one of the things I just want to mention as you're talking, I don't think we realize fashion has always played a huge role in our lives for, thousands and thousands of years. And I think sometimes we kind of disregard it as it's, either you're a fashion forward or you're this, or, but it's just regardless of it, it's just an important part of our lives.
It is. It's one of the easiest ways to express yourself. And my thing is, when people find out that I produce Omaha Fashion Week, they're like, "Oh, I'm not a fashion person." I was like, "Well, you're wearing clothes, so you're a fashion person."
And the clothes you wear also kind of, it has an impact on how you feel too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that the Cancer Survivor Show certainly speaks to that idea of the way fashion can lift spirits and give you courage and the strength to carry on through adversity. And those things are important. And so these battles that James Scully has fought in the industry to make things more fair are really important. And they're an important part of perpetuating that idea that fashion really does have a big impact on our lives and our identities. So he's going to be great. And then on Thursday night, we have Takun, which we've been wanting to talk to Takun for years. But he actually grew up in Nebraska. So he's he was born in Thailand. I believe his dad was in the military, or some family member was in the military. So he moved to Bellevue when he was 11, graduated from high school from Bellevue West, I believe. And then from there ended up in the fashion industry. And he's had great success. He actually was mentored by Anna Wintour and kind of had a cameo role in the fashion documentary, what was it called? The September issue. So you can actually see him interacting with Anna Wintour in that documentary. So he is going to be great to talk to, because he has a lot of memories of becoming inspired by the industry and different places in Omaha that inspired him to get into the industry, whether it's like thrift stores or the mall. And so I think it'll be really cool for kids especially to hear from him and what he went through and how he ended up on that path, just by virtue of the different experiences and things he saw and he was growing up here. So anyway, we're excited about that.
Well, let's talk about just how people can buy tickets and where to go for information.
Sure. Yeah. So the tickets this season are free. So there's no cost to them. It's a really big thing that we've changed, and we're doing it because COVID sucks. And it's been a tough year. And so we just want to make this accessible to anybody who wants to come and learn and be inspired again. So you can go to omahafashionweek.com to see the full schedule and to reserve your space at these they're going to be Zoom sessions. And so there is a limited number of spaces available for those, but they're free.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm so excited about that. Let's just talk briefly before we end our conversation about August 2021 and kind of what your
well, fingers crossed.
I
The
know. Yeah,
vaccinations
for
show
sure.
up. And I think by the time we get into May, we'll be feeling pretty clear about what direction that's going in. But for now, we're planning it's going to happen, that it will be an in-person event. Hopefully, we won't have any more restrictions around masking and social distancing. We'll see.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it will be back to the runway. We'll be in person, back to the runway. How that looks, we're open. This year has really just made us rethink everything, and what are the things that we really need to do and what are the things that we want to do. And
Yeah.
so we're going to be really sorting through that and making some decisions, but the plan is to do in-person runway shows, and we'll be opening up designer applications for the August 2021 season next week.
Okay. Well, again, I mean, I've gone to, I don't know how many Omaha Fashion Week events.
Probably as many as I have.
And they're always amazing. And it really is about the designer and shining a light. These are artists, these are creators, and these are people that, the world needs these individuals. And that's just our life. It's all about creation. So I will for sure have you back here soon, Brooke.
Great.
So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Andy. Take care.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. And I just want to remind you, our current issue celebrating our healthcare heroes here in the Omaha Council Bluffs area is online. You can view it online. And also our giving guide, our spring edition, is also available to view online at spiritofomaha.com. And I will see you back here next week.